the Brains Trust, introduced by the question master, answering any question.
She's just the low numbers tonight, team. We've got myself and Eyes. No Brycey. He's somewhere in, I think it's Hyde Park in London, Piss Crook, so he's unavailable for this pod. But anyway, Eyes, we'll punch on. Pretty interesting weekend of club footy. I guess, for the Marist boys, bit of a hangover, I guess, in terms of a big weekend. I'm sure the Mosburn boys would have been the same. How'd you pull up?
I didn't train last week, so I didn't really feel how rusty I was until I got down the field on Saturday. But, there was probably a little bit of a residual hangover. But all in all, I guess across the grades, there were some pretty interesting results and some tight games. So another good week of footy. I think it was probably the first time we've had some decent weather and probably feels like close to a month. So I think it's reflected in the standard of some of the games out there on Saturday.
Oh, yeah, we had to, I guess we have to give shout out to the weather. Finally played its part. Sunshine, no real wind. So I'm sure people across the province that took to the field would have loved that on Saturday, which was good stuff. I guess before we move on, last week we brought up a couple of points around Division 1 teams, or Ack Soper and Gerald Dermody, just around jerseys. It was great to have some feedback come in on the DMs on Instagram. So thanks to Reese Winter from Riversdale, for clarifying that no, the lads are well off track. Edendale and Riversdale's jerseys are not the same. So appreciate that feedback, Reese. Always good to have that for the fellas. And also Collegiate, who came through just around, we also queried Collegiate and Matoda, their jerseys. So told that Matoda are solid maroon with a bit of yellow, Collegiate are maroon with yellow hoops. So, we correction there. We thought we better correct the shit that we were talking last week. So, no alternative jerseys needed.
It sounds like us to be completely off track on something like that, doesn't it? So, that's good.
Great predictions as always. Just quickly, apart from the Barbars and Marist Premier, be interesting to know, actually, if anyone does have any, I guess if there are any jersey clashes, it'd be good to sort of know. We thought that those two might have been a couple, but
I thought, just off the top of my head, if Riverton and Waikaka ever played each other, potentially similar-ish jersey, similar shades of green. I think Riverton have probably got
more of a full green, isn't they?
Yeah, they've probably got a little bit more white in the Riverton strip. Bluff and Ataudau, perhaps. I think they run red and white hoops.
Might be a bit more red on the Ataudau one, but I guess we'll touch base on that one. But if you do have one, make sure you flick it through, team. Whoever's listening out there, I'm sure we might have at least 3 listeners. But cheers for the feedback, fellas. We'll get straight into the action from last weekend because there were some interesting results. Premier grade, we'll just rattle through the scores. Woodlands 32-19 over Blues. Marty McKenzie back and Woodlands back into a bit of form. I guess the highlight of that game, you had a good watch of this one. Liam Shepherd, the son of the great pup, on the end of a Marty McKenzie cross kick, goes 50 metres and shows a bit of toe. To be fair, personally, when I seen this, I didn't actually realise it was Liam Shepherd, but hell of an effort from the lad and Woodlands.
Marty was telling me about it on Saturday night. I thought he might have been putting a bit of GST on, how good the dot was, but no, it was a hell of a try, and he showed a pretty clean pair of wheels. There was some other... it was quite a good game to watch, actually, after the last few weeks of most of the games haven't been much chop, but it was pretty high standard. I thought Jacob Payne was really good. I thought that was probably the best I've seen him play for
Blues soccer, yeah.
Blues. Yeah, he was really good. Probably another highlight for me, 2 highlights actually, was seeing Liam Howley, one get spear tackled and then probably 10 minutes later having a field goal from about 40 out. So there's plenty of highlights in that game, but those 2 definitely stood out for me.
Yeah, we're going to show Liam a bit of love there. If you're looking at this post on Instagram, you'll see the video going up. So well done, Liam, on that chop goal attempt, one of the greats that you will see in club rugby, let alone any rugby. But yeah, much deserved, or I guess much earned win for Woodlands. Yeah. I know a few of their tries they really went to work in the 22, but pretty important win for them. Marty back was obviously a huge boost, as we talked about last week. He came in and controlled proceedings pretty well, as we would expect of him. So gets them, I guess, right in touch in terms of a top 2 finish. Big showdown with the Marist lads this weekend, I guess, to juggle who's going to really finish second.
Yeah, I think that whoever wins that game put themselves in a pretty good position to, as you said, finish second. I guess hosting semi-finals is probably not as big a priority in Premier footy as it is probably the Ack Soper and Gerald Dermody. Most of the game we played at, I'd say, at least George or Rugby Park. But yeah, it's a big contest this week.
Absolutely right. We'll go to Surrey Park. It was a nice day with a big crowd by the looks of it on the video. Good to see people jumping on the POB hype train, mate.
Yeah, well,
7-0 or 8-0? 7-0. 8-0, I think. Can't keep up.
8. I think it's 8-0. I think most of them are probably there to see Dan Kens's return from the rugby wilderness and the starting jumper, and he sort of rewarded the crowd with the head high 10 in the bin. So I was talking to him during the week, and he said it was a bit quick coming back, but it'd be good for the run. As you said, pretty good performance from Pirates old boys. Just pretty creative with the ball, and they give it a lot of air. I think Isaac ended up with a hat trick, perhaps, and but to Stars' credit, they actually stayed in and they scored some pretty good tries themselves. So they're not going to be they're playing. I think they're playing a lot better in that second round. So I'd say flush that first one. They've definitely gone up a gear. Yeah,
and fair to say from a Star perspective, like they hung in there pretty well. It was looking through the try lights, it looked like POB probably more so ran away with it towards the end of the game, but more of a battle in the first half.
Yeah, I think another thing for Star that's helped is having Hayden Edgley back at 9.
Yes, welcome back, Edge.
Yeah, he's a pretty good addition, to be fair, and he sort of makes that engine go a little bit. So, having him back's helping them.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. All important one for POB. Really pretty much locks them into first spot with just 3 rounds to go. So you would almost safe to say put your house on them finishing the round robin in first place. However, these last 3 weeks turn out, so we'll watch that space. I guess for Stard, we must win territory this week, which we'll touch on later on. We'll go to the last game of Premier. It was Marist making the trip out to the showgrounds, Field of Dreams, to take on the Barbarians. To be fair, just before we go any further, we've obviously given the showgrounds a pretty bad rep multiple times in the show, but fair to say the field was in pretty good shape for a mid-June fixture out there.
I would say that it's the best shape that ground's I've ever played on. To be fair, that ground is usually, by this time of year, it's pretty hopeless. I'm not sure if Barbars are training on it or not, because it didn't seem to be any real
couple of weeks sand patches, but apart from that,
yeah, it was actually good, and the game itself reflected that in terms of how it was played. So yeah, big ups to the showgrounds. The changing rooms are still cold as a witch's tip, but
can't make it off that. But anyway, it was Marist boys probably got off to a hot start. Try for try really though in the first half. Barbarians, I guess going to work in the 22, what they're very good at. A few Marist mistakes and Barbarians pounced. It was 22-19 to Marist at half time. Couple of serious injuries from Marist perspective. Jay Renton and Phil Halder exiting the game. I guess just shout out to Jay, obviously dislocated shoulder, poor bloke. So he's gone for, I guess, at least the club season and potentially longer. So I know it's pretty gutted on around that, Jay Renton. So hopefully from his perspective, it's he can get himself back into some sort of condition to play Mitre 10 Cup or Bunnings NPC, should I say. I guess eyes throws you in the hot seat. But anyway, I guess the second half meant Barbarians really in full control, trying a penalty, 29-22, probably should have had a few more points, to be fair. Pretty dominant that second half. Marist sort of hung in there and a lot of penalties conceded in a few errors, but somehow found a way in the last 6 minutes with a penalty and then a try to Liam Moody-Johns, who had a pretty outstanding game.
It's good.
From a Marist perspective, must be pushing his case for a Stag spot. Scored the match winner, bust for the line from about 40 out. So, 32-29, Marist take the 5 points. Pretty heartbreaking. If you're a Barbarians fan, 3 tight losses on the trot, and especially this one losing in the last 5 minutes. So she was pretty tight right down to the wire eyes.
Yeah, it was. It was a game that, I guess, if you're looking at it objectively, that Barbars probably deserved to win. I think they dominated most of the game in terms of territory and possession. It's just a couple of I guess, finishing touches probably weren't there at times, especially in the second half when it felt like they had the ball for about the first 30 minutes of that second half. So they were really good on the day, I thought. And I guess lucky for us, we did enough to get across the line, but it was a pretty spirited Barbars performance. Their forwards were really good. They were good at set piece.
Scrum was huge improvement in the scrum. I know we talked about their scrum being under a lot of pressure, but talking to one of the blokes at the Crawdon actually afterwards, not a player, but obviously sounds like the Barbarians put a fair bit of work into their scrum at training last week, and I guess they saw the rewards against the Maris boys.
Well, it's always been a staple of Barbars footy is having a really good set piece, especially scrum time, and it reflected on Saturday. So, they're not going to be an easy team to knock over for whoever has to play them coming home. And in fact, I wouldn't be surprised if they win a couple of these games coming home, judging on that performance.
Absolutely. So it makes it pretty interesting moving into the last 3 weeks. We'll go to Division 1. We'll start in the Gerald Dermody, though, this week. We thought we'd change it up. Waikiwi took on Albion at Waikiwi. Bit of a tough first-up loss for Waikiwi at Mosburn Centenary, but they bounced back emphatically at home, 35 points to 12, so a bonus point win for the Kiki. That's pretty impressive from them eyes to come back after a pretty heavy loss last week.
Yeah, I think most of us saw. You might have taken the Kiwi, did you? But the way Albion had been travelling in those previous weeks, it was a bit of a surprise to come off the field and see that as a result. But I think I saw a couple of the Kiwi boys actually on Saturday night, and they're pretty happy with how things all went. So that's a really good win for them and puts them in a position where they'll definitely be challenging for a semi-final in the Gerald Dermody now.
Yeah. One team that did, I tipped this one, Pioneer took on Mosburn. We talked about Marist and Mosburn having a bit of a centenary hangover, and Mosburn may well have had that centenary hangover. Pioneer got the job done, 38 points to 19. Pretty impressive win for the Pioneer boys.
Yeah, I think this is probably, looking through the grades, but I think it's probably the most shocking result in terms of maybe not necessarily, I think the way Pioneer have been travelling, I was pretty surprised with this result, but I guess the margin of victory is just as surprising to win by 19 points. And I don't know where I read, this might be a bit of bullshit, but I thought Mosburn were up 19-0 at half time. So if that's right, that's a huge second half. It may be completely off the reservation. It wouldn't surprise me. But, big effort from Pioneer at home, Newman Park. They'll be fizzing after that.
Yeah, for sure. Just looking on the score on the website, it looks to be in red, so not sure if that might be 100% confirmed, Oz, but we'll have to investigate that one. But it's in the books. Pioneer 38, Mosburn 19. Right, we'll go to the last game. It was Matoda at home taking on Collegiate. We thought it might be a bit of a Jersey clash, but no such clash on the scoreboard. Matoda getting it done, but reasonably close game. Keeps them out in front in that Gerald Dermody. Collegiate, though, showing that they can compete, I guess, with those teams at the higher end of the Gerald Dermody, right in the hunt for our top 4 spot, actually. Good stuff, for Collegiate.
Absolutely. Matilda at home, pretty formidable side. So for Collegiate to go up there and run them as close to that, I haven't heard anything about the game, but just looking at that scorecard, that's a pretty fair effort from the Collegiate boys after. Did they get? They didn't play was it the week before? They might have got. So I know they beat Waikiri. So no, they've been travelling pretty well actually, Collegiate. So they'll be again right in that semi-final hunt. I'd imagine in that grade.
Currently sitting third. We've got Matoda out on front on 19. Open up a bit of a gap. Mosburn, probably that loss has sort of dropped them back a wee bit on 13. Collegiate 8. Pioneer 7. Much important win for them. Albion 7 and Waikiwi 5. So pretty tight, especially in terms of the race for those 3 and 4 spots. Right, we'll go to a grade that is very, very tight, and that's the Ack Soper Shield. As always, provides plenty of contests with plenty of drama. Edendale took on Tokanui at home. We know last time these teams played out a 1-point thriller down at Tokanui. This time it was at Edendale. Edendale raced out to another lead. By all accounts, it looked like it may be a bit of a bath in the first half, talking to a couple of onlookers, but not to be, Tokanui, as they have done this season, ground their way back into it, and 37-31, pretty respectable. I guess the biggest news from an Edendale perspective is the loss of Bram Fodey potentially for the rest of the season with a knee injury. Fingers crossed for Bram and for the competition that hopefully, well, I'm sure the other teams won't mind if he's out, but yeah, I guess for Bram's sake, hopefully nothing too serious, touch wood. And also lost a couple of other key players, so a few injury concerns for Edendale, but nonetheless, I'll be happy to beat the 5 points.
Yeah, absolutely. That puts him in a pretty good position moving forward. Obviously, also for Tokanui to pick up 2 there could be important in the back end of the season if they can manage to burgle a couple coming home. It might give them a spot in that semi-final. As you mentioned, though, that loss potentially of Bram for if that's the season out. That I hate to write them off, but I think that would make things very difficult for Edendale in their run home. Obviously, Devon's potentially still out, so a lot rests on Jeremy McLeod's shoulders, I think he was goal kicking on Saturday, and he has been since his brother went out. So, yeah, as I said, a lot resting on Jeremy McLeod's shoulders. I mean, also looking at that score, it's another really good effort from Tokanui, especially coming from Gerald Dermody champions last year. They just keep going up a grade and keep fighting, and they haven't been towed up or anything all year. So that's a sign of a really strong club down there.
Yeah, good stuff, Tokanui. Right, talk about tight contests. Riversdale took on Wyndham out at Riversdale. Wyndham looking to get back on track after going down to Waikaka last week, and they managed to get it done. Pretty tight contest, 21-15, Wyndham taking the win. Riversdale picking up a bonus point, I guess, as a consolation, but Wyndham, by all accounts, bit of a battle out at Northern Southland Eyes. Got it done, though.
Yeah, the Wyndham boys get back on track after losing the Waikaka the week before. It looks like just another torrid Ack Soper affair, doesn't it? 21-15. I'm not too sure if you've heard anything from Jimmy Sinclair, but that's pretty important for those Wyndham boys to get back on the horse, win that game there, and keep themselves in a pretty strong contention for a home semi-final spot. Just shows you that competition's so tight. So it's pick up wins where you can is very important, obviously.
Absolutely. And if we thought that game was tight, well, out at Centennial Park, we dubbed this as the game of the week. We can thank Bryce for the MIA around the no Instagram game of the week. But on the pod, it was the game of the week, and it sure delivered. Waikaka, probably the win of 2021 so far, got the win, 21 points to 20, a last-minute penalty to, I believe, Hamish Cook. First 5, stole the game from the Midlands boys. So huge well done to Waikaka. I think one of us might have tipped this last week.
I tipped Waikaka.
We boil over on the cards, and
Bryce sprayed
right.
That's partly why he's not here. He's not taking his medicine, but it sounded like this game lived up to its billings of the match of the round. I guess talking to Ben McKercher on Saturday, said it was a pretty ding dong sort of affair. I think Midlands took the lead with about 3 to go.
Yeah.
Ben McKercher kicked a penalty with a tee that he doesn't usually use. So he made sure that I got that in there, but he knocked over
How
one.
Far out?
Not too sure. I'm not too sure if it was. I'm just going to say 30 out, but stones, those sort of stuff. But then I think Midlands didn't exit or didn't put the ball out, gave Waikaka a chance, and they sort of worked their way down. And got in range, and Hamish Cook duly knocked over the penalty.
Yeah, I guess in terms of a Midlands perspective, they'd be pretty disappointed with that. Obviously, coming down from the Premier grade, they had a pretty tight, I guess, scrappy win over Tokanui, and then going down to Waikaka. We have talked about the Waikaka class, I guess, all through the season with some pretty good players in that Waikaka team, but I guess nonetheless, Dana Cunningham as coach would be pretty disappointed around, I guess, going down and a bit of a scrappy win in these first 2 games.
Yeah, I think so, but it should be more of a, I guess, well, I don't know if benefit's the right word, but it should buoy the other teams if they're ever thinking about coming up that, there isn't that big gap to Premier footy. Like if you actually give it an honest crack, like you guys aren't that far away as a team unit. I'm not too sure if any other teams will follow Midland's lead and have a crack. But for me, I think the worst thing for the competition would have been Midlands come down and just towel them up, and it's like then there's a big gap between Prems and Ack Soper. But yeah, I think it just shows the quality of the other sides, to be honest. As much as Midlands might be a little disappointed with how they've started down there, it just shows you that the other teams are pretty handy still. One player, McKercher, told me to mention was Hayden Stevens. He said he was outstanding on Saturday for Waikaka. I think we mentioned him.
Yeah, he's been played a few times on the Brains Trust.
Yeah, he's a pretty fucking handy footy player, to be fair. So, yeah. And
just a shout out to Waikaka quickly. We know that they still hold the Spates Shield, so well done to the fellas for holding on to that. Actually, I'm just looking at this penalty. Ben McKercher, definitely inside 30 metres, so got nudged nonetheless, Benny. But yeah, definitely probably 25 with a slight angle. Take that.
Bloody oath.
Smooth. Right, yeah, I guess that just got us thinking though. We talked about I guess guys kicking goals and whatnot. Who are some of the guys I guess that have the biggest boot or I guess a specific skill set? Something like a Rugby Southland Combine where we would get to see the best of I guess those specific skill talents. Could be worth a go at some point.
Yeah, it was mentioned to me on Saturday night that Hamish Cook might have one of the biggest boots in the province, if not the biggest boot. So I was just thinking, well, actually it was, and that's another Ben McKercher brainchild, but if you somehow line them up, I'm not too sure, before a Stags game or something, even at a half time, I'm not too sure how that would work, but you got your biggest punters, your fastest runners, maybe you line out your straightest line out throwers, your furthest line out throwers. I'm not too sure what else you could add in there, but I mean something like that and put some sort of prize up for it. I think it'd be quite nice. Because there'd be people all around the province and various grades who can kick a ball a mile. Absolutely. I'm just off the top of my head. I'm sure Jeremy McLeod can kick a big. Yourself can kick a big one. It'd be quite nice to see people just belting the shit out of the ball, and then obviously when you see people having foot races, there's probably nothing more. There's nothing more exciting than watching people who can run quick. So I don't know. It's just something that was presented, and I thought it was actually not a bad idea. Just not sure the logistics behind it, but I mean, if you could work something out, it'd be quite nice.
Yeah, we'll make it happen. Good stuff. Right, we'll just have a look quickly before we get into the previews, the points table for the Ack Soper, because we gap opened up actually between the top four and the rest. So Edendale currently on top on 16 with Midlands, Waikaka and Wyndham to play for that Edendale boys. Midlands on second, first equal on 16. Waikaka and Wyndham equal on 12. Waikaka obviously beat Wyndham, so they'll go ahead. Riversdale on 4, Tokanui on 2. So I guess from a Tokanui and Riversdale perspective, they're probably going to have to win their last 3 games apiece, including they playing each other. So they're going to have to probably pull 100% win rate out of the bag to get themselves into those semis. I guess in terms of the other 4 teams, probably going to be some jostling to see who gets the all-important home semi-finals. Rightio. We'll go straight into our previews. Some big games coming up this week. We'll start in the Gerald Dermody. I'll change it up a wee bit. It's Collegiate taking on Albion at Collegiate. We talked about that race for the 3 and 4 spots in particular being pretty tight in the Gerald Dermody. This game here pretty crucial in the scheme of things for both sides' eyes. 1 point separating them on the table. Collegiate at home, they'd probably fancy their chances.
Yeah, I think Collegiate will be winning this week. I'm going to say they're going to win 12 and under. They've been travelling. They've been reasonably consistent. I think I mentioned earlier they might have got towed up one of the games in the last month or so. But it seems like outside of that, they've actually been really consistent. So tipped them reasonably confidently to win it on Lindisfarne on Saturday.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I'm going to have to go Collegiate as well, I think. But Albion boys, they haven't been trucking too bad. Probably a little bit surprising their margin of loss to Waikiwi, though.
Yeah, maybe that's just a one-off, but it is probably a little bit concerning going against a side.
Collegiate definitely going in as favourites. We'll go to Mosburn Domain. It's Mozzie back at home. taking on Matoda. This is 1v2 in the Gerald Dermody so far. Matoda probably, they win this. They're probably locked in that one spot with 2 rounds to go. So I guess plenty of motivation for them. Rosburn will be looking to I guess, get a win over Matoda. That would really make it really tight in terms of the race for the top seed before the semi-finals.
Yeah, to be fair, Matoda haven't been travelling as well away from home from memory. So I'll tip Mosman at home for the 9th time in a row this season. But I think they'll be looking to bounce back after that performance last week. Losing by such a big margin will probably sting those boys a little bit at training. So I'd be expecting a much better performance from them on Saturday.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go Matoda in a tight one, but I think, this will definitely be a 12 and under sort of game. We'll see how that plays out. We'll go to the last game of the Gerald Dermody. It's Pioneer at home, looking to make it 2 in a row at Newman Park, taking on the boys from Waikiwi. It's a battle with a Red Brigade. Waikiwi probably would have got a lot of confidence out of that win, heading up to Pioneer, but also, I guess, Pioneer coming off that big win over Mosburn, they'll be looking to double up. Thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I guess Pioneer will have a bit of spring in this step after such a convincing win over Mosman in the weekend. Whoever wins this game or whoever loses this game probably puts themselves in a position where they'll be struggling to make. Well, they might be able to sneak a semi-final spot. Look, I think, fuck it, I'll take Waikiwi. Go up to Newman Park and
Kiki, get it done.
Spoils 12 and under. Tough place to win, but I'll take them.
Yeah, I'm going to have to go. I think I'm going to have to go with the Pioneer boys at home. But I've got a lot of confidence out of that win over Mozzie, so I think I'll go Pioneer, but I think I'll go 12 and under. Might be a reasonably tight one. We'll see how that plays out. We'll go straight to the Ack Soper. 3 big games coming up in that competition. We'll start out at Waikaka, the team that are running pretty hot, taking on Edendale. Injury-stricken Edendale side. Sam Nicholson, the heavy hitters have been called in for this one. Some would say best ref in the province, signed to this fixture. So I guess they get the gold. Waikaka, thoughts here, Eyes? Probably hot favourites, especially. I know Edendale are top of the table, but, we talked about those injury losses before. It'd be pretty tough for them, I guess, to head up there and cause a bit of a boil over or take the win over the Waikaka.
Edendale will play with a lot of heart this weekend, but I think losing those key players you mentioned earlier, and the way Waikaka have been travelling, I'll be taking Waikaka overs. It's going to be a tough. You have to be a good side to beat Waikaka this year. I think they might have lost 1 game this year, perhaps. Yeah. So, they've been a pretty classy outfit all year, and I think they'll be getting the chocolates on Saturday.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Waikaka 13. Actually, I think can't underestimate that loss of those Bram in particular and Devon and those other boys that are out. So I know the Edendale boys will rally hard and like you said, play up a lot of ticker and a lot of fight. But it might be in that last 20 minutes might get away from them. But we'll see what plays out. We'll go down to Tokanui. They're taking on Riversdale. These 2 teams played in the last round. I think it was also down at Tokanui from memory. Tokanui took the win on that occasion, so Tokanui will be looking to make it 2-0 over the Riversdale boys. Big trick down south for the Riversdale lads' Eyes. Maybe a bridge too far.
Yeah, I think Tokanui will win this one. I think they'll win unders. They've been
right there, haven't they?
Yeah, they have been. They've been right in the mix in their all season, to be perfectly honest. It's just been getting off across the line in some of those close games. Has eluded them a little bit. But I think this week they'll actually win a tight one. I'm going to say 12 and under as well.
Yeah. I'm going to go Tokanui unders in that one. We'll go to the last game. It's Wyndham taking on Midlands. Another massive game, I guess, in terms of, all these teams Midlands are playing, I guess, probably these opposition teams see it as, I guess, a bit of a scalp in terms of the fact that they've come down from Premier. So, like we talked about before, Wyndham boys back at home. Could be an interesting game, this one.
Yeah, I think Midlands will bounce back with a win this weekend, to be honest. I feel like most of Wyndham's last games have been within maybe their last 4 or 5, even 6 games have been within 7 points. So they've been used to playing really tight fixtures, and that. I don't know. I just think Midlands will win this weekend. I know it's up there. Actually, maybe the last time they were up there might have been the the Ack Soper final a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
I'm not too sure if they were out there last year. They might have been actually, but
Yeah.
so they've got some reasonably happy memories of playing out home there. So in Wyndham. So I think Midlands bounce back with a win 12 and under.
Yeah, and I think with the Midlands boys, like a lot of young boys in that team, isn't it? So I'm sure they'll want to have a lot of confidence or try and get a bit of confidence back. May have lost a wee bit of confidence over the last few weeks. We know that they did have their last Premier game. They got a bit of a toweling, albeit with a few guys being rested and now injured against Pirates Old Boys, but they've come back into the Ack Soper, ground their way out on a night game against Tokanui, and then got tipped up in the last play by Waikaka. So I'm sure Dana will be laying down the law to the boys this week around putting in a good performance and getting themselves back on track for the semi-final. So we'll watch that space. I'm going to have to go. I think I'm off to go Midlands just. I think it'll be 12 and under.
Is that the first time you've tipped against Wyndham all year?
Oh, that's a reluctant tip against them. Tough to tip against them at home, Oz. But may have to go Midlands just in that one. Right, we'll go to Premier Galbraith Shield. 3 pretty important fixtures in the Barbarians, must-win territory. We talked about must-win territory last week. This week is pretty much win or go home with 2 weeks to go. POB looking to make it 9 on the trot out at the Gore Showgrounds. Another home game for the Barbars. What do you think here, Oz? But POB, I guess the good track will suit them, but Barbars, they're going to come out pretty desperate, aren't they?
Yeah, you'll see another really honest effort from the Barbars. I think they'll probably back themselves a wee bit in the forwards to have a go, trying to get some ascendancy, because the type of side, when they've got the ball, it's actually really hard to get it off them, especially if they play quite narrow and close to the ruck, just because they're so well drilled in that area of the game. I think that's the best way of actually restricting Pirates Old Boys is by having the ball. It sounds simple, but making them make a lot of tackles. I do think Pirates Old Boys will just be too good out there. I think it'll be reasonably close. I'm going to go 12 and under. Pirates Old Boys, but I just think, Barbars are really fancy themselves on Saturday, especially up front. So it'll be a good challenge for POB.
Yeah, I think you nailed it, Oz. I think if Barbars get into that game where they start chucking the ball around, probably not going to play into their favour so much. I think so. Yeah, I think POB, I guess the recipe for them will be looking to move the Barbars boys around. But yeah, it'll be a good game nonetheless. I think I'll go POB, but 12 and under as well. Be a good one. Right, we'll go to Woodlands. Club day out at Woodlands. Woodlands boys taking on the Marist lads' eyes. Obviously, we won't bother doing any tips for this one, but pretty even game, I guess, coming up this week. We got 2 teams, I guess, looking for that second place, chasing in behind POB. So pretty interesting in the scheme of things. Both teams, I guess, nursing a couple of injuries, and probably Marist more so. Woodlands probably more so on the side of welcoming some guys back. I know Joe Walsh sounds like he might be good for 30-odd minutes. So it'll be good to see the Stags prop back on the field if you're a Stags fan and a Woodlands fan in particular. Yeah,
absolutely. He's a pretty big addition to that side. He's a fucking good player, and there's a reason he's played a lot of footy for Southland and played game for the Blues. So to welcome him back at this time of year, it's really handy from a Woodlands perspective. I'm not too sure what the deck's going to be like out at Woodlands. I think there's 2. This is 10, I think it might be leaning on the heavier side, which is a bit of a shame because both these teams like giving the ball a bit of air. So I'll just be who fronts up on the day and how each of the forward packs goes. Both teams are pretty well directed around the park with their first 5. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I think it's club day out at Woodlands as well, so be expecting a big crowd, and I imagine they'll have the Landers final on after the game. So they'll be expecting a decent crowd out there, and hopefully, from Marist's point of view, it's spoiled somewhat. But we'll know by about 4:30 on Saturday what's going to happen there. Yeah. Right, we'll go to the last game. It's out at the Les George Oval. Star at home, a home game, taking to the Les George, taking on the Blues boys. We talked about Barbarians in must-win territory. Fair to say, as the Star boys, this is pretty similar for them. Win or
win or you're done, really. You're playing for pride for the last 2 weeks, so I guess plenty on the line for them. Also, from a Blues perspective, as they lose this one, they fall right and back into a wee race with not POB, bloody Barbars and Star, in terms of fighting it out for those spots. So Blues win this, they're probably likely got themselves in, I guess, well, halfway there with 2 weeks to go. So pretty important for both teams.
Yeah, they'll be really targeting this game. Well, both sides will be, obviously. There's a lot on the line. It's sort of a moving week of sorts in the Premier grade. Like, you can either put yourself in a really good position to be in a semi, or you can, as you said, be potentially playing for pride for the last 2 weeks, which is a position no team wants to be in. So, I really don't know, to be perfectly honest. They played a few weeks ago and Blues won. I think it'll be the same, especially on the deck out there. I think that'll actually suit Blues a little more than Star. I wouldn't have been surprised if they played at Star, to be honest.
Yeah.
But I guess their prerogative taking the game out there. They did win out on the Les George 2 weeks ago, so that might be in the back of their mind. But I'll take Blues 12 and under and put themselves in a position where they're knocking out the semis door.
Yeah, I'm going to go Blues 12 and under as well. Speaking of the Blues, you mentioned it before, big Super Rugby semi-final coming up. Highlanders against the Blues. I guess firstly, just quickly, I know we were at the Croydon for the aftermatch watching the Highlanders, the Crusaders take on the Rebels, and fair to say I've never seen so many people cheering for an Australian team, let alone the Rebels, Melbourne Rebels. So that was an interesting experience. I guess it was a bit of a interesting finish to a sort of competition.
Yeah, it's a bit strange. I would feel reasonably hollow if I was a Crusaders supporter and you've won 5 games.
And you don't make the final.
And you don't make the final. You haven't lost, you haven't made the final by 5 points or 7 points. So
yeah, 7. Came down to 1 try in that last.
It'd be interesting to see what kind of crowd they actually get at Eden Park. Like, I have no idea. I doubt it'll sell out. Like, I'm not too sure what the interest of that would be. If you win it, is it as big as, because it's not a full Super Rugby comp, but there's 2/3 of the team. Yeah. I mean, it might have been more interesting if there was semi-finals and obviously there's more New Zealand teams playing, because I guess it's probably scope for that in the 10-team competition.
Yeah. That could have been interesting, actually, semi-finals.
Because then you're not as dudded, are you? Hurricanes would have been in there. It would have still been all New Zealand teams, but what sort of chances do you give the Highlanders this weekend? I see they've been given I think the Blues have got a 7.5 or 6.5 point start at the tab. So
I'm going to give the Highlanders a pretty decent shout, to be fair. I think the way they've been playing, playing off pretty good control, not overly, I guess, fancy in terms of the approach. Kicking game's been pretty good. To be fair, I've actually only watched a couple of the games and a few highlights, but from what I've seen, they've played a pretty good control. So I think if Aaron Smith turns up, I guess mentioned the Southland, Ethan de Groot, up front, the Highlanders top 5, and Lucy's have really fronted. Billy Harmon, I think, has been unreal.
In the All Black picture.
Weeks. I see he's just named in the Māori All Blacks today, so
yeah.
Must be half in the mix. When you get guys like that, Shannon Brazil, like we talked about Ethan, they're playing pretty well. So I think the Blues will try and, I guess, bash them up like they did at Eden Park a couple of months ago. Then the Highlanders come out to Dunedin and sort of managed to run them around a wee bit. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah, it will be. It'd be great to see them win. I don't know. It always seems like, as a Highlanders supporter, when they're going up to Eden Park, it's always been a really unhappy hunting ground. Obviously, that's changed a wee bit the last few years, but hopefully they can win, because it'd be pretty good for I'm not too sure if you have a parade after winning that sort of thing, but it's not quite the 2015 Super team, or Super total, but that's something to chuck in the trophy cabinet, isn't it?
Oh, that's it. Right, Oz, that might do us for this week. We guess coming on next week, but we'll announce that when we go on. But Brycey hopefully will be back from his hangover next week, and we'll catch you guys next week.